Jackie Chan's fist connected with the man's jaw so hard the guy's feet left the ground before his back slammed into a concrete wall. The man didn't stay down. He pushed himself up, spit blood onto the floor, and came forward again with the kind of dead calm aggression that tells you someone has been in more fights than they can count. What happened in the next 45 minutes would become Hong Kong legend, a story whispered about for decades. Only 11 people saw it. None of them were supposed to talk about it. But stories like this don't stay buried. They crawl out. Let me take you back. It's 1982. Jackie Chan is 28 years old. He's already a star, but not the global icon he'd become. He's making films at Golden Harvest Studios, working 18-hour days, doing his own stunts, breaking bones on camera, and building a reputation as the hardest working man in Hong Kong cinema. But here's the thing nobody talks about. Jackie Chan didn't just fight on screen. He grew up in the Peking Opera School under Master Yu Jim Yuen, where the training wasn't rehearsal. It was survival. Kids got beaten. Kids fought each other for real. Jackie spent a decade in that school, learning how to take punishment and how to deliver it. By the time he was making movies, his body was a weapon wrapped in comedy. Now, in 1982, Hong Kong's film industry wasn't glamorous behind the scenes. It was rough. Triads had their fingers in everything: production companies, distribution, talent contracts. If you were a rising star, people came knocking, and if you didn't answer the door politely, sometimes the door got kicked in. Jackie had been dealing with pressure from a particular group for months. They wanted a cut. They wanted him to appear in their low-budget productions for almost nothing. They wanted control. Jackie kept saying no. He said it through his manager. He said it through intermediaries. He said it through lawyers. And every time he said no, the temperature went up. Believe me, this wasn't unusual. Almost every major Hong Kong star from that era has a triad story. Some paid, some cooperated, some fled. Jackie Chan did none of those things. The man who came for him that night wasn't a random enforcer. His name doesn't appear in any official record, and I'm going to call him what the few people who were there called him. They called him Brother Hung. He was 6 feet tall, which in Hong Kong in 1982 made him a giant. He had hands that looked like they'd been carved from stone, and he had a reputation, not as a gangster who ordered violence, as a gangster who personally delivered it. Brother Hung was known in certain circles as someone who had studied Wing Chun and Western boxing, and who used that combination to settle disputes in ways that left lasting impressions. Broken orbital bones, shattered hands, the kind of injuries that made people compliant for life. Brother Hung showed up at a private dinner. Jackie was eating with a small group, his stunt coordinator, 2 actors from his current production, a producer, a couple of friends, 11 people total, including Jackie. The restaurant was a small spot in Kowloon, not a fancy place, the kind of joint where the owner knew everyone by name and the back room had a heavy door. Brother Hung walked in with 2 men behind him. He didn't sit down. He stood at the edge of the table and looked directly at Jackie. "You've been very rude," Chan Kong sang. He used Jackie's real name. That was deliberate. That was a message. "I know who you really are, not the movie star, the kid from the opera school." Jackie set his chopsticks down. He didn't stand up yet. He placed both palms flat on the table. Everyone at that table felt the air change. "I've been polite," Jackie said. "Every single time." Polite would be saying yes. Jackie pushed his chair back and stood. Not fast, slow, controlled. The way a man stands when he's already decided what comes next, but isn't in a rush to get there. "I said no. That's my answer. It stays my answer." Brother Hung tilted his head. His 2 men shifted their weight. One of them had something in his waistband. The producer at the table saw it and his face went white. Here's what nobody tells you. Jackie didn't look at the 2 men. He kept his eyes on Brother Hung, because Jackie understood something fundamental about confrontation. The soldiers don't move without the general. Control the general, control the room. "You make fighting look fun in your movies," Brother Hung said. "Let's see if it's fun now." Jackie stepped away from the table, not backward, sideways. He moved to an open area near the back wall where there was space. He was creating a fighting zone. He was choosing the ground. That's not something a scared man does. That's something a trained man does. Get this. Jackie's stunt coordinator, a man who had watched Jackie work every single day for years, later said he had never seen that expression on Jackie's face before. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. It was stillness, complete stillness. And it was terrifying precisely because Jackie Chan was never still. The man was always moving, always joking, always performing. This version of Jackie was someone none of them had met. Brother Hung removed his jacket and handed it to one of his men. He rolled his shoulders. He was bigger than Jackie by at least 4 inches and 40 pounds. His forearms were thick. His stance when he settled into it was solid, left foot forward, hands up but loose. A Wing Chun center-line guard blended with a boxer's mobility. The man knew what he was doing. Jackie stood with his feet shoulder-width apart. His hands weren't up in a traditional guard. They were at chest height, open, palms slightly forward. It looked almost casual, almost lazy. But if you knew anything about Kung Fu, you'd recognize it. That's a trapping position. That's a position designed to intercept, redirect, and counter. Jackie wasn't planning to box this man. He was planning to let Brother Hung come to him. Brother Hung came. He threw a straight right, fast, committed, aimed at Jackie's chin. Jackie's head moved 3 inches to the left. The fist went past his ear. Jackie's right hand snapped up and caught Brother Hung's wrist, and in the same motion, Jackie stepped forward and drove his left palm into Brother Hung's chest. Not a punch, an open palm strike. Brother Hung stumbled back 2 steps, surprise flashing across his face. I swear this happened. The entire exchange took maybe 1 second. 1 second, and Brother Hung had been hit, and Jackie hadn't. Brother Hung reset. He came again, this time with a combination. Left jab, right cross, left hook. Textbook Western boxing delivered with real speed. Jackie slipped the jab, parried the cross with his forearm, and ducked under the hook. As the hook sailed over his head, Jackie drove a short uppercut into Brother Hung's ribs. You could hear the impact, a dull, wet sound. Brother Hung grunted and clinched, grabbing Jackie around the shoulders, trying to use his size advantage to smother him. This is where most people would have struggled. A bigger man clinching you, pressing his weight down, trying to neutralize your speed. But Jackie had spent years training in grappling techniques that never made it into his comedy films. He dropped his hips, broke the clinch by driving his elbows down against Brother Hung's arms, and as he separated, he fired a knee into Brother Hung's thigh. Not the groin, the thigh, dead leg. Brother Hung's left leg buckled for a half-second. Jackie used that half-second to create distance. Now they were back at range. Brother Hung was breathing harder. Jackie was not. And that's when the dynamic started to shift. Because Brother Hung realized something. The movie star wasn't performing. The movie star was fighting. And the movie star was better at it than him. Listen to me carefully. There's a difference between a man who has trained to fight and a man who has been trained through fighting. Brother Hung had learned techniques. He had practiced combinations. He had hurt people who weren't prepared for violence. But Jackie Chan had been forged in a system where children fought each other with full contact from the age of 7. He'd been hit with sticks, thrown across rooms, and forced to perform through pain for a decade before he ever stepped in front of a camera. His body didn't just know techniques. His body knew how to adapt in real time, how to read an opponent's weight shift, how to find the gap between intention and execution. Brother Hung charged. This time it was less technical, more aggressive. He threw a wild overhand right, putting everything into it. Jackie sidestepped, and as Brother Hung's momentum carried him forward, Jackie grabbed the back of his shirt collar and used his own movement against him, redirecting him face first into the wall. That was the impact I told you about at the beginning. Brother Hung's jaw hit concrete. His feet came off the ground from the force of his own charge meeting an immovable surface. The 2 enforcers moved. One reached for his waistband. Jackie's stunt coordinator, a man named Chen, who weighed about 200 pounds and had shoulders built from years of catching human bodies in mid-air, stepped in front of the armed man and grabbed his wrist. The other enforcer hesitated, looked at Chen, looked at the rest of the table where 8 other men were now standing, and made a calculation. He stayed where he was. Here's the part that matters. Brother Hung got up. Blood was coming from a split in his lip and a cut above his eye where his face had met the wall. He spit red onto the floor, and he came forward again. You have to understand what this tells you about Brother Hung. It wasn't just stubbornness. It was identity. This man had built his entire reputation on being the guy nobody could stand up to. If he walked away now, in front of his own men, that reputation was ash. He had no choice but to continue. Or at least, he believed he had no choice. Jackie waited. He hadn't moved from his position. His breathing was steady. His hands were back in that open palm position. Patient. Brother Hung fainted low, then threw a spinning back fist. It was fast. It was unexpected. And it connected. The back of Brother Hung's fist caught Jackie on the side of the head, above the ear. Jackie's head snapped sideways. He took a half step to regain balance. For the first time, he'd been hit clean. You know what he did? He smiled. Not a movie smile, not a grin for the camera. A small, tight expression that said nothing except, "Now we go." Jackie exploded forward. He threw a three-punch combination so fast that witnesses later disagreed on what they'd seen. Some said 2 punches, some said 4. The consensus was 3. A jab to the face, a cross to the body, and a hook to the temple. Brother Hung's guard caught the jab partially, but the cross landed flush on his floating ribs and the hook hit him clean on the side of his head. His knees dipped. He didn't go down, but he grabbed the edge of a table to stay standing. Jackie didn't follow up. He stepped back. He gave the man space. And this, right here, is the moment that separates what happened that night from a regular street fight. Because Jackie could have finished it. Everyone in that room knew it. Brother Hung was hurt. His balance was gone. One more combination, maybe a knee, and it was over. But Jackie stopped. Not out of mercy. Not exactly. He stopped because he was trying to give Brother Hung a door, an exit, a way to walk out of that room without losing everything. No dice. Brother Hung straightened up, wiped blood from his eye with his forearm, and came again. This time he tried something different. He went for a takedown. He shot low, grabbed for Jackie's waist, trying to get the fight to the ground where his weight advantage would matter. Jackie sprawled, driving his hips back and his weight down on Brother Hung's shoulders. Brother Hung's hands slipped on Jackie's shirt. He was on his knees now, and Jackie was above him with both hands on the back of his head. This is what they call position in fighting. And Jackie had absolute position. He could have driven knees. He could have cranked the neck. Instead, he pushed Brother Hung away and stepped back again. "We're done," Jackie said. Brother Hung looked up from his knees. Blood was dripping from his face onto the restaurant floor. His shirt was torn at the collar from where Jackie had grabbed it earlier. He was breathing through his mouth because his nose was starting to swell shut. Trust me on this part. What Brother Hung did next is the reason this story gets told. He stood up, slowly. He looked at Jackie for a long moment. Then he looked at his 2 men. Then he looked back at Jackie. "You fight like your father," he said. The room went quiet, because that sentence carried weight that nobody expected. Jackie's relationship with his father was complicated and mostly absent. His father, Charles Chan, had been a spy, a soldier, a man of violence who had left Jackie at the opera school and disappeared into a different life. For Brother Hung to reference Jackie's father meant something specific. It meant he knew things. It meant there was history that went deeper than a business dispute. Jackie's jaw tightened. His hands, which had been open and relaxed, closed into fists for the first time that night. Not because he was about to fight, because that sentence hit a nerve that no punch could reach. But he didn't take the bait. He opened his hands again. He let the tension drain from his shoulders deliberately, visibly, and everyone in the room could see the conscious decision he was making. "My father isn't here," Jackie said. "I am. And I said we're done." Brother Hung held Jackie's gaze for 5 seconds. Then he did something nobody predicted. He nodded, just once. A small, almost imperceptible dip of the chin. Then he took his jacket from his enforcer, put it back on, and walked toward the door. He stopped at the threshold. Without turning around, he spoke one last time. "You're wasting yourself in movies, Chan." And he left. Now, let me tell you what happened after. Because the fight isn't the whole story. The fight was the punctuation mark on a sentence that had been building for months. Within 2 weeks of that night, the pressure on Jackie stopped. Completely. No more phone calls. No more intermediaries. No more veiled threats about production schedules or distribution problems. The word went out through the channels that mattered. Leave Chan alone. Here's the thing you won't read anywhere. Brother Hung didn't just stop bothering Jackie. He actively put out protection. Not as a gift, not as a gesture of friendship, as an acknowledgement. In the world Brother Hung operated in, respect was currency. Jackie had earned something that night that money couldn't buy and threats couldn't manufacture. He'd earned the kind of respect that comes from standing in front of a dangerous man and proving, without bravado and without cruelty, that you are more dangerous and more disciplined. Now, you might be wondering how this story survived if only 11 people were in the room and none of them were supposed to talk about it. And the answer is simple. Stories like this are too good to bury. The stunt coordinator, Chen, told a few people over the years. One of those people was a journalist who covered Hong Kong cinema in the late 80s. The journalist wrote it up but never published it because he couldn't get anyone to go on record. But the story circulated. It passed through stunt teams, through film sets, through the late-night conversations that happen when people in the industry share drinks and share secrets. By the late 90s, when Jackie was already a global star, versions of the story had spread far enough that interviewers occasionally danced around it. Jackie never confirmed it publicly. He never denied it either. When asked about confrontations with triads, he'd give a diplomatic answer about difficult times in the industry and the challenges everyone faced. But sometimes, very rarely, if you watch his face carefully during those interviews, you can catch something, a flicker, a micro-expression that says, "I remember." Let me tell you something else. In 2003, Jackie gave an interview in Mandarin that was never widely translated. In it, he talked about his training at the opera school and what it taught him about real confrontation. He said something that, once you know the story I just told you, hits different. He said, "The hardest fights aren't the ones where you need to win. They're the ones where you need to win without destroying the other person. Because destruction is easy, control is the real skill." Mark my words. That line wasn't philosophical musing from a movie star who'd spent too long at award shows. That was a man talking about a specific night, a specific fight, and a specific decision he made when he had a bleeding man on his knees and chose to step back instead of step forward. Now I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about what Brother Hung said. You fight like your father. Because that sentence opens a door into Jackie Chan's history that most people never walk through. Jackie's father, Charles Chan, served in the Chinese Nationalist Army before the Communist Revolution. He was trained in combat, real combat, not martial arts performance. After the revolution, he ended up in Hong Kong, where he worked at various jobs, including reportedly as an intelligence operative. The man had a past that was violent, classified, and largely unknown to his own son. Jackie grew up at the opera school. He saw his father rarely. What he knew about his father's past came in fragments, rumors, and occasional comments from people who had known Charles in a different life. For Brother Hung to say, "You fight like your father," meant that Brother Hung had either encountered Charles Chan directly or knew people who had. It meant that the connection between Jackie and this particular triad group wasn't random. There was history. There were debts or grievances or entanglements that predated Jackie's fame by decades. We'll probably never know the full picture. Charles Chan passed away in 2002. Jackie has spoken publicly about reconciling with his father later in life, about building a relationship that they never had when Jackie was young. But the shadow of his father's past followed Jackie through the Hong Kong film industry in ways that nobody fully mapped. And here's the real kicker. Jackie Chan, the guy who makes us laugh, the guy who uses ladders and chairs and refrigerators as comedy weapons, the guy who blooper reels his broken bones while a cheerful soundtrack plays, that guy survived a world that destroyed other people. He survived the opera school. He survived the triads. He survived his own stunt work, which put him in the hospital dozens of times. And he did it all while making it look fun. That night in Kowloon, in a restaurant back room, with blood on the floor and 11 witnesses who were never supposed to talk, Jackie Chan showed who he really was. Not a movie star pretending to fight. A fighter who had chosen movies instead. Brother Hung understood that by the end. You could see it in that nod, that single small dip of the chin that contained an entire conversation. It said, "I came here to break you, and instead I found out you were never breakable." It said, "I underestimated you because I saw the movies and thought that was all you were." It said, "I won't make that mistake again." Remember what I said earlier, that Jackie smiled when he got hit? That's the detail that stunt coordinator Chen mentioned more than any other when he retold the story. Because in all his years working with Jackie, he'd seen Jackie take hits on set. Falls, impacts, collisions. Jackie would wince, curse, sometimes cry out in pain. Normal human reactions. But that night when Brother Hung's spinning back fist connected clean, Jackie smiled, and Chen said it was the scariest thing he'd ever seen, because it meant Jackie had been holding back a part of himself for years, keeping it locked away. And for one brief moment, the lock came off. I want you to think about that. The most dangerous version of Jackie Chan isn't the one who jumps off buildings or fights 12 guys in a warehouse. It's the version nobody sees, the version that was built in a brutal school, hardened by a childhood without comfort, and refined by a lifetime of physical discipline. That version came out once, in front of 11 people, and it was enough to make a feared enforcer nod and walk away. If you've stuck with me this long, do me a favor. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell. Because I tell stories that nobody else is telling, and I'm just getting started. Now let me land this thing. Years later, in the early 2000s, a young stunt performer on a Jackie Chan production asked Jackie about the triad stories. He'd heard rumors. He wanted to know if they were true. Jackie looked at the kid for a long moment. The kid was maybe 22, eager, full of the kind of fearlessness that comes from not yet knowing what the world can do to you. Jackie put his hand on the kid's shoulder, and according to the kid who told this story at a Hong Kong film retrospective in 2019, Jackie said 7 words: never fight, but if you must, finish. He patted the kid's shoulder, turned around, and walked to his mark for the next scene. A comedy scene. A scene where he'd slip on a banana peel, crash through a table, and make 100 million people laugh. That was Jackie Chan, the funniest man in the room, who happened to be the most dangerous person in it. A legend built not on the fights people saw, but on the one fight almost nobody did. 11 witnesses, 1 back room, a story that refused to stay secret because the truth has weight, and heavy things sink into the ground and become foundations. Brother Hung disappeared from the scene within a few years. Some say he left Hong Kong. Some say he retired. Nobody who knew him well enough to say is talking, and at this point, most of them are gone. But his contribution to Jackie Chan's legend is permanent, even if it's anonymous. He's the man who tested Jackie and found out the answer. He's the proof that the skills on screen were never fake. They were diluted. Jackie turned his ability down, not up, for the cameras. The movies were the gentle version. The real Jackie Chan, the one who existed for 45 minutes in a Kowloon restaurant, fought with precision that had nothing to do with entertainment. He fought the way a surgeon cuts. No wasted movement, no flourish, each action purposeful, measured, and devastatingly effective. And then, when it was over, he put that version of himself away like a man locking a door and swallowing the key. He went back to work the next day. He filmed a fight scene involving a ladder, 2 chairs, and a guy in a chicken suit. He broke his pinky finger during the 8th take and kept going. He made the crew laugh between setups. He bought dinner for everyone that night. Nobody mentioned what had happened the evening before. Nobody had to. It was already becoming what it was always going to become, a legend, the kind of story that gains weight with every year that passes, not because it gets exaggerated, but because the people who were there keep saying the same thing when they tell it. Jackie didn't want to fight. He tried everything to avoid it, and when he couldn't avoid it, he ended it without breaking Brother Hung's bones, without humiliating him beyond recovery, without turning a confrontation into a catastrophe. He won with control. He won with restraint. And somehow, that made the victory more absolute than any knockout could have been. That's the story of Jackie Chan's most dangerous fight. Not the one from Drunken Master, not the one from Police Story, not the rooftop jump or the clock tower fall or the burning building escape. The most dangerous fight Jackie Chan ever had was in a room the size of your living room, against a man who came to destroy him, witnessed by 11 people who couldn't believe what they were seeing. And the most dangerous thing Jackie did that night wasn't a punch, it wasn't a kick, it wasn't a technique from any style with a name. It was the moment he chose to stop, because anyone can learn to fight. The rarest skill in the world is knowing exactly how far to go and then going not 1 inch further. Jackie Chan had that skill. He proved it to 11 people in a Kowloon back room. And now, because stories like this refuse to die, he's proven it to you. That's the legend. Believe me, it's real.